Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Jackson. And in this space, we do life together, we grow together, and we heal together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel. And if you're joining us for the first time, hey girl, welcome to the body. If you're a returning listener, hey girl, hey, welcome back. So I am excited to talk about purpose blockers today. Last week we talked about being poured out, and I just have to say thank you all so much just for the feedback and the excitement about season 5 starting. It really does warm my heart to get messages, to have people stop me and just tell me how the episode encouraged them, how it really just ignited something on the inside of them and reminded them to do the thing that you're supposed to in this season, do the thing that you know that you're called to. So I am truly excited about the direction of season 5. Before we jump into purpose blockers today, I did want to share something. So last year I had the opportunity to be a part of a series called Thankfulness that was created by Faith. She is the founder of Crowned in Glory, and I had the opportunity to talk about thankfulness and finding purpose. So I will link that in the description box on YouTube and in my show notes for you all to check that out. It was really a good time just to be able to talk about finding purpose and going through that journey. And there are other ladies who talked about different topics as well. So make sure that you check out the series. All right, we're going to talk about purpose blockers. But first, girl, let me tell you something. So by now, I feel like most of you have probably heard about or are familiar with this whole Kate Middleton situation. For those of you who are not, let me catch you up to speed very quickly. So long story short, Kate had been MIA, and people came up with lots of conspiracy theories as to where she was, why she was MIA. And then there was a picture shared for Mother's Day that people said was heavily photoshopped. And it just became this whole mess. And people were pretty much like demanding for her to like make a video to show that she was alive. Like it was a whole thing. And recently she came out and made a video that she was diagnosed with cancer. And I really felt awful for her to have to make a statement for something that is so private, because the world is like pushing you to share something that you may have not been ready to share. And I feel like as a whole, social media is like a double-edged sword. It gives us an opportunity to have access to people that we would never be able to otherwise. It gives us insight into people's lives that we don't know. But with that, I do feel like it also comes with a sense of entitlement that we deserve to have this access. You need to tell me everything. And obviously with her being a part of like the royal family, there is more of a spotlight on her for sure. But I was looking at this video that someone had posted on Instagram, and listen, let me tell y'all something. I don't be in the comments as far as like leaving comments, but I'm gonna read them. The comments are where it's at, okay? And the video was pretty much sharing the same sentiment that we have become people who are like so entitled to information about other people's lives that we are not, nobody owes you that information, right? So one of the comments had said something about with them being like public figures or whatever, that it does entitle them to share information more so than I guess like the average person. And I'm like, ma'am, first of all, you still have time to delete that comment because how dare you? Audacity real high there. But also, I just feel like there's a level of respect and grace that people are lacking in this season. Not just in this season, it's been like this for a minute, but I don't know. I just felt really bad that she had to share something that was so private and so personal. And a part of what she said in the statement was something along the lines of like wanting to, you know, they have small children. So wanting to keep that information from not keep it from their children, but essentially like wanting to protect their children and sharing it when they were ready, essentially. But it's almost like the world, social media forced her hand. And I don't know, it's just something about this entitlement that I do feel like social media has given. You see the jokes about when somebody posts their new partner and they're all out here posting the pictures and then all the pictures get deleted. And it's like, well, you let us in on the relationship. What happened in the breakup? Like we want all the tea. But that really ain't your business. And I don't know. I don't really have an anything to say with this. It was just one of those things where it was just this reminder of how social media is a great tool to have. And like I said, it does give us access to people that we wouldn't have had otherwise. But it also has created this entitlement where people feel like they deserve to know all of the tea. They deserve to know everything that's going on. And I feel like we should have learned, at least with Chadwick Boseman, when he obviously, wasn't looking well and people were commenting on his appearance and making fun of him. And then later we found out that he died from cancer. And so I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, where do we draw the line? Where do we find the balance of like respecting people's privacy, allowing people to share what they want to without feeling like there's some sense of entitlement or something that is owed to us as the public? And this isn't simply just for celebrities or people who are public figures. You see it more obviously because they are more in the forefront. But that's just my little 2 cents of what I wanted to talk about today, because I just felt like audacity is high, and it's really unfortunate that she felt like she had to share something very private before she was maybe ready to share it because of the press from the public. Like, who are we? So that's that. So let's go ahead and jump into purpose blockers. So as I mentioned last week, the purpose blockers that we're going to talk about today is from a devotion by Dharius Daniels. I linked it last week. I will also link it this week in case you want to check it out. But he focuses on 2 specific purpose blockers in the devotion. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because you can read it in the devotion, but also I've done an episode on one of them. So it's like, we're going to talk about it. But there are some other ones that I want to add on because I also feel like that plays a role as well as far as what is keeping us from actually like pursuing our purpose. So in talking about purpose blockers, y'all know I like to give a definition for things. So Dharius Daniel defines purpose blockers as negative emotions, insecurities, and excuses that lead us down less productive or less fulfilling roads on our purpose journey. And I feel like that definition alone is enough to make you pause and kind of start to examine yourself and look at, what are the excuses that I come up with? What are the things that I have allowed to be purpose blockers in my journey? What are the things that have led me down a less productive road or path on my journey to pursuing purpose? And that is really an individualized conversation. I can sit here and go down a list of different purpose blockers, but ultimately this really is an individualized thing that you have to figure out for yourself. What are the things that are keeping me from pursuing my purpose? What are the things that are keeping me from living a life that is poured out? What are the things that are keeping me from fully saying yes and doing the things that I am called to do? Because it will be very easy to look at a list, and if your thing isn't on there, to be like, oh, well, this doesn't apply to me, so I'm Gucci. Girl, don't do that. Like, we all know the excuses that we make. We know the things that we allow to get us sidetracked. We know our personality traits, our characteristics that keep us from pursuing or doing the things that are hard or challenging. So be honest with yourself. I'm going to go through a list, but as I always say, this list is not exclusive. So just because your thing may not be on here, that does not take you off of the hot seat. Okay, ma'am? Okay, Miss Girl? That does not take you off of the hot seat. It simply just gives you a place to start. But you ultimately have to do the inner work and look at yourself and say, okay, well, what are the things that I might be missing here? What are the things that may have me sidetracked? All right. So let's jump into the 2 that he talks about in the devotion. And this is going to be brief, like I said, because I've talked about one of them in a separate podcast. And so we're going to deep dive in the other ones. All right. So the 2 purpose blockers that Dharius Daniels talks about in the devotion are fear and self-reliance. And he says one of the biggest impediments to achieving purpose, even for believers, is over-reliance on ourselves. We think we can do what God has called us to do by ourselves. Not true. Purpose requires partnership, and we are God's partners in carrying out his plans for the world. And I love this so much when it comes to self-reliance because, listen, I get it. I am definitely one of those people who I like to do things by myself. I have a hard time asking for help at times. I get it. But ultimately, we were not created to do life alone. And for some of you, the reason why you are not fully walking in your purpose or doing the thing that God has created you to do is because you don't utilize your village, baby girl. You have people who want to support you. You have people who want to show up for you, but you are trying to do everything alone. You're trying to do everything by yourself. And I get it. There are people who are in spaces where it's like, I need the help. I need a team and I don't have it. I get that. I'm not talking to you, not just yet. I'm talking about the people who have people who are rallied around them, who have people who are willing to help you, who are willing to show up for you. I remember this was a couple of years ago. I had this girl reach out to me and she was like, I want to help you with whatever you need help with Change Hearts. And I'm like, okay. And I never utilized her, not because I didn't think that she was capable, not that I didn't need the help, but I was in a space where honestly, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I felt conflicted to bring somebody else in when I didn't really have clarity. And it's like, I don't even know how to tell you how to do what you need to do. And I bring that up because I know for some of you, it's like, okay, but I don't really know what I would assign someone to do. You have to find that clarity because there's nothing more frustrating than trying to help somebody who doesn't know what they need help with. And so you feel like you're just kind of there, even though you want to help and you're willing to help. It does help to have clarity. It does help to be in a position where you can give somebody tasks to do and you can explain to them what to do. And I know for some of you, you may say, well, I'm not utilizing people because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to tell somebody else what to do. Even if it's just small tasks, something that you can take off of your plate so that you can work on the thing or even seek out the clarity that you need for your next steps. Don't overcomplicate things, but also don't use a lack of clarity as an excuse, which is not valid, to remain in a space where you are self-reliant, where you don't allow people to help you when you need that help. The other one that he talked about is fear. I have an episode called Coming Face to Face with Fear. So like I said, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that. I will link that episode in the description box. But since we're here, might as well go ahead and talk about it. You have to start somewhere. I can honestly say your purpose is not going to be birthed in a comfortable place. It's not going to be birthed in a place that you feel like it's easy and you could just walk in it fearlessly. That sounds great. It sounds amazing, but baby, that ain't going to happen. It's going to be in a space that requires you to step outside of yourself. It's going to be in a space where you question, how is this going to happen? How is this going to work out? It's going to be in a space where you may be afraid. More than likely, you will be afraid, where you're not going to know why you were chosen to do this, how it's going to come together, how you're going to do it, who's going to show up, you're going to have all of these different questions, but do it anyways. Start anyways, because listen, you cannot allow fear to be the reason why you never start, because trust me when I say this, every single thing that I have done that was outside of my comfort zone, every single thing that I did that made me uncomfortable, that I had fear in my heart, every single thing, once I did it, I realized that was not as bad as I thought it would be. It was hard. It took some figuring out. It didn't go as planned, but look at me still being okay. I was afraid and I did it and I'm still okay. Life kept on going. Like sometimes you just need to be reminded that your worst case scenario is typically not how things turn out. Don't be afraid to start. Even if you have to do it a little scared, even if you have to do it a little uncomfortable, even if you have to do it with questions and wondering, do it anyways, and don't be afraid to start. But also listen to the episode on Coming Face to Face with Fear so that you can navigate through that as well. Okay? All right, so now I want to move into a few that I came up with that some of them stepped on my toes because it's specifically for me and I'm sharing it because the message is the messenger first. And some of them I felt like just from the definition alone, it's like, okay, we got to address that. So first things first, this is the one that came for my entire life. And I had to sit with this for a minute because it was for me, okay? It was a direct shot at your girl. You want the result, but you don't want to do the work. Why is this a purpose blocker? Because you want to walk in your purpose, you want the end result, but you don't want to do the work to get there. And that is a purpose blocker because it's going to require work. It's going to require you putting one foot in front of the other. It's going to require you to do something that you've likely never ever done before. It's going to require you to get out of your comfort zone. It's going to require you to try something that you've never done before. It's going to require you to change your schedule, to not be on social media all the time, to not be wasting time all the time, because you have a purpose, because you have something that you actually need to do. And it's going to require time. It's going to require you investing time. It's going to require you investing effort. It's going to require you to say no to some things and some people. It's going to change a lot of what has been your norm. And for some of you, that is where you have the conflict of walking in your purpose, because you're so focused on, but it requires a lot, or I have to do this, I have to do that, I got to figure this out. Honey, you got to get to a place where you say, I want to be who God has created me to be, regardless of what I have to give up, regardless of what I have to sacrifice, regardless of who I have to say no to. And I'm going to give y'all the example as to why this checked me, because it wasn't even about pursuing purpose. But as I was preparing for this, I'm like, this is relevant for the podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about myself real quick. So listen, y'all know, I think it was like season 3, maybe even season 2, one of the two. I was on this like health kick of I was trying to gain weight. Sis then gained weight and then some, okay? Now we're on the opposite side of it, where I'm trying to just be really intentional about eating healthier and being intentional about like really loving my body, taking care of my body, all of that. Here is my dilemma. I hate working out. Like, I'm not a workout girly. Never have been, never will be. And I've accepted that. And people are always like, oh, you have to find like exercises that you like, or you got to find like some kind of program that you like. I don't like any of it, okay? I don't enjoy doing any of it. It's just not something that I wake up and I'm like, oh, let me go work out so I can feel better. No, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. There's nothing about working out that is appealing to me, aside from the fact of I know that it is good for my body. I am a woman of a certain age now, and I want to make sure that as I get older, that I'm still mobile, that I'm still able to get around, I'm still able to like feel good in my body. With that being said, that's going to require me to work out, because I can eat right, which is half the battle for sure. But there's also another layer to it. There's another level to it. And I don't always be eating right either, okay? I am the type of person that is like, I will eat right. I will do my part. I will eat my greens. And then I will also eat a whole bunch of stuff that I should not have, all in the same day. No balance there. And so I was sitting down the other day and I was just thinking about how I really want to get to a place where it's like I'm toned, like I enjoy working out and I'm eating healthy. I feel good. I have energy. I'm not tired all the time. And God really hit me with the 1-2 that you want the results, but you don't want to do the work, because you can have that. You are in a position, there's literally nothing that is keeping you from getting to what you actually desire. Nothing but you. And I'm sharing that because, listen, I know I don't like doing certain things. I know I procrastinate. I know who I am, okay? But because I know that, there's some adjustments that I have to make. There's some things that I have to do differently. And I'm sharing that with you too, because I know, listen, I know some of y'all are procrastinators. I'm that too, okay? I know that some of y'all avoid doing hard things. I am that too. I know that for some of you, it is a lot easier to look at like, oh, I see so-and-so over here doing this, and that's amazing. I would love to do that. I know that it's easier to look at someone else do it, congratulate them, be happy for them, and say, oh man, I wish I could do that, versus putting in the work to actually do it. And I want to encourage you in this season to not be the girl that watches everybody else live out their purpose this year and you sit on the sidelines another year. You sit on the sidelines instead of doing the thing that you know that you're supposed to do, because you're afraid, because you're tired, because you don't feel like it, because it's a lot of work, because it's going to make you uncomfortable, because it's hard. Listen, We have to stop desiring the end result, but not wanting to do the work in between, which is the next purpose blocker that I want to talk about, which is the shortcut. Can we talk about her? Can we talk about her? Because some of you, the reason why you have not gotten to the place that you want to be, or why you're not fully walking in the purpose that you were created for, is because you are trying to take a shortcut to get there. You don't want to do the work, but this is a whole nother level, because instead of going A, B, C, D, E, F, G to get to H, you trying to do A, F, C. No, ma'am. Every single step, we talked about this last week, every single part of the journey, it's necessary. And we have to get out of trying to just get to the end result and doing whatever we have to get to the end result, except for actually doing the work, except for actually healing, except for actually forgiving, except for actually going through the process that is going to get us to the most healthiest version of ourselves when we get to the end result. A lot of times we call ourselves trying to skip or take the shortcut, when in reality, there was a quote that I saw, I forget who said it, but then I saw on Instagram, and I forget exactly what the direct quote is, but it essentially was, not taking the shortcut is the shortcut. Like, that is literally how you get to your end result. And so many of us end up missing it because we're so focused on trying to get to the end result, but we don't want to do the work to get there. So we call ourselves taking shortcuts. And what do y'all know about shortcuts? Sometimes those shortcuts lead you to detours. Sometimes those shortcuts actually put you on a path that isn't even the direction that you were trying to go on. And the funny thing is about your GPS, if you put in an address and you're going in a direction and you're thinking like, oh, well, this way is quicker. And so you call yourself taking a shortcut, but you don't know that trees are down because it was windy or it was a storm the night before. So now your shortcut is actually taking you longer to get to your actual destination because there was something there that you couldn't see. And that's what we have to keep in mind when we're trying to take these shortcuts. Yes, you may be on the long path. Yes, you may have seen other people who were able to do it quicker. Yes, there may have been other people who could have done it in 3 days, or it seems like they're an overnight success. But honey, trust me when I say you have no idea what you are avoiding by taking the path less traveled. You have no idea what you are avoiding by going down the path that you're actually supposed to be on versus trying to take a shortcut to make it go quicker, because you don't know the traps that are there on the shortcut. You don't know the detours that the shortcut is actually going to lead you on. You have no idea how this one choice or decision that you could make could prolong you getting to your destination simply because you just wanted to get there faster. And now it's taking you years to get there. We not doing that, okay? We're not about to be walking around in the wilderness for 40 years like the Israelites. We're not doing that. There's no point in taking unnecessary detours or shortcuts when the path that you are on is purposeful. And there are little things that will be deposited along the path that you're supposed to be on that is necessary for the end result, that is necessary for the woman that you're going to be when you get to the end of it. You can't skip those things. 2 other purpose blockers that Dharius Daniels talked about briefly were comparison and emulation. And again, I'm not going to talk about comparison because I have an episode on that as well that I will link in the description box. But we're going to talk about emulation because that, I think, is just as important to talk about. And it gets overlooked and overshadowed sometimes by comparison, when both of them can be detrimental to you and your journey as far as you pursuing your purpose. So let's first define the two so that we can have a clear definition and we can see the distinction between the two. All right, so to compare is to examine 2 or more objects, ideas, people, etc. in order to note similarities and differences. Whereas emulation is to try to equal or excel, imitate with effort to equal or surpass. And I think it's important for us to make this distinction because a lot of times we focus on comparison, and that's necessary too. We look at what other people are doing and then we feel like we're not enough, or we feel like what they have going on, it looks better. Listen, it's very easy to fall into the comparison trap. I get it. Been there, done that, struggle with it sometimes now as well. But I think it's important for us to understand that nobody can be you. And I'm going to leave it there when it comes to the comparison part. Because like I said, got a whole episode on it. Y'all can listen to that and break that down. But nobody can be you. That is literally your secret sauce. Nobody can be you. Okay? Let's focus on emulation. So this, I think, is really important because what can end up happening is the more you compare yourself to someone, you then try to mimic what they do. You then try to take on what they do. And I feel like when it comes to social media specifically, like it's very easy to try to copy someone's aesthetic, to try to mimic something that someone is doing, especially when it appears to be successful. And I don't even want to say appears to be, especially when it is successful, when it works for them. But the thing is, you lose your authenticity in that. You lose your authenticity because you're so focused on trying to do what someone else is doing and trying to make it work for you when it's not you. It's not, it doesn't even feel like you. It doesn't even look like you, but you're trying so hard to mimic something or to do something to get to this level that someone else is because you see that it worked for them. This was an area that I struggled with when it came to me starting off in ministry because I felt like I was still finding my voice, but not really sure what that was, what that looked like. And so I found myself listening to a lot of women preachers and trying to kind of mimic what they do or trying to figure out like, okay, well, maybe I can say this, I can do this. And it didn't feel like me because it wasn't me. It wasn't who God has called me to be. And it took me a while to get comfortable and confident in who I was created to be specifically in ministry because I felt like I didn't look the part. I felt like I didn't fit the norm. I have tattoos, like I like a full beat, I like a red lip. These things can be frowned upon when it comes to the church. I was young, I was a woman. It felt like there were so many things that technically were counted against me. And so I was trying to find a way to fit into a culture that I felt like I have to look like this or I have to be this in order for this to work or in order for me to walk in this part of my calling. And it took me a while to figure out like God called me to be a minister as I am. And let me say this, a work has been done and is still being done. He knew all of these things about me and he still chose me. He didn't choose me to look like someone else. He didn't create me knowing that he was going to put this purpose into me, knowing that he's called me to this certain thing for me to then emulate someone else. And I want to share that because I feel like it's very easy to get caught up in, well, this is working for someone, or people clap for this, or people like this. So then let me try to be this so that I can get that feedback, so I can get that positive reinforcement. You have to be who God created you to be. And I can't say that in any other way. It is so necessary for you to be who God created you to be because there are people who need you to be who you are as you are. There are people who need you to walk in the authenticity of who it is that he has called you to be. And you can't allow them to miss you because you're walking in someone else's authenticity. You're trying to reflect someone else. You're trying to be someone else. And so the people who need representation that looks like them, the people who need to see a girl who has tattoos, a girl who has a past, a girl who's been through some things, still walking in purpose, they need to see that. They need to see that. And I cannot stress that enough. The secret to walking in purpose is not found in you chasing someone else's. The secret to you walking in your purpose is not found in you emulating someone else's. You just have to be who God created you to be, with all of your quirks, with all of your weirdness, with all of your things that people may not get. There are people who are attached to all of that, who need you to be all of that, who need to see you being your authentic self. So because it shows them, it's okay for me to be me. It's okay for me to show up as I am. I don't have to look like someone else. I don't have to look the part. I don't have to be someone else. I don't have to emulate someone else. I can just be who I am, and that is enough. And for those of you who feel like you have to look like someone else, do it how someone else does, or try to be how someone else was, let me tell you this. You are enough as is. Melissa Fredericks has a shirt that says, I am enough as is without exception. And you need to know that. And that is the last purpose blocker that I want to talk about today, which is insecurities. I feel like insecurities is probably one of the biggest purpose blockers because it will keep you in a mindset that will convince you that you are not good enough, that will convince you that you are not worthy enough. It will convince you that there's nothing that you can do that is enough to make you deserving of a purpose. And one of the things that I love about God is that he literally had a plan for us before we were even thought of. He had already created us to be a solution to a problem that had not even existed yet. You have to understand like how significant that is because you were already thought of to fix a situation or to be the solution, to be the light in a situation that doesn't even yet occur before you were born. And God thought enough of you to create you for a specific purpose and to allow you to be the change, to allow you to be a change agent, to allow you to be the one who comes in and shakes some things up, to allow you to be the one who goes in and changes and shifts environments. And you have to understand how powerful that is. I believe for some of you, the insecurity that is keeping you from walking in your purpose is attached with your past. You feel like you've gone through too much. You feel like too many things have happened to you, and you feel like that has counted you out of being able or deserving even of pursuing purpose. The devil is a lie and the truth ain't in him. What I will not allow is for you to leave from this episode and feel like there's something that you've done that counts you out from being able to fulfill the purpose that is on the inside of you at this very moment. You have to get into a place of confidence that you know there is literally nothing you can do that will stop the plan and purpose that God has for your life. There is nothing that you can do, but you have to get to a place where you don't allow your past, you don't allow your mistakes, you don't allow the times that you didn't get it right, you don't allow the ways that you messed up to talk you out of fulfilling the thing that God has called you to. And here's the kicker. Most of the time, it's because of what you've went through. It's because of your past that you are able to help people who are attached to your purpose. And we lose sight of that because we're so embarrassed. We have so much shame. We have so much guilt. But trust me when I say God has a way of rewriting your story. He has a way of taking all of the bad, all of the negative, and literally turning it around for your good and using it for your good and his glory. Don't allow yourself to be convinced that because of the things that have happened to you, that you have to carry around this humility that you'll never be anything, you'll never help anyone, you'll never amount to anything. That is not humility, that is condemnation. And we have to get to a place where we're able to call a thing a thing. Do not convince yourself that you are not deserving or worthy of purpose because of who you are, because of what you look like, because of what you've been through, because of your bloodline, because of your family. We are shutting down that narrative right here, right now. You are still called. You are still chosen. You are still worthy. You still have a purpose. God created you with a purpose in mind. You have not been forgotten. You have not been overlooked, and you have not been forsaken. And I need you to understand that and really grasp hold of that thing because it is necessary. It is necessary for us to be women who are able to walk in confidence in the thing that God has called us to and the things that we are supposed to pursue, because there are other women, there are other people who need to be reminded of the very things that you had forgotten. There are women, there are young girls who need to be reminded of their worth and their value so that they don't go find it in these little dusty men. There are people who are attached to what it is that is on the inside of you. And listen, we can try and put all of these things on the enemy, like the enemy, is trying to make you feel, listen, take that off the table. I'm not saying that that's not a thing, but take that off the table and look at yourself and just take a moment and think about what are the things that it really is just a mindset thing. What is it where I have allowed myself to believe a lie? What is it that I have allowed myself to be convinced that I'm not deserving or that I'm not worthy, or I've allowed my insecurities to play so heavily a role in me not pursuing my purpose that it has crippled me? I want to encourage you to get to a place where you're able to lay aside that, where you are able to really allow yourself to forgive yourself for the things that you didn't get right, that you are able to allow yourself to release whatever you need to, that you're able to allow yourself to find the wholeness and healing that you are able to. And catch this, I've been talking about walking in authenticity for the last couple of seasons. It is going to be difficult for you to walk in authenticity, to be your authentic self, when there are parts of your story that you have allowed to keep you bound because you're ashamed, or because you are embarrassed by it, or because you feel like if people knew this, or if this happened, people would, they wouldn't listen, they wouldn't care. I want to encourage you to take the time, however long you need to, whether it's therapy, whether it's you spending time with God and allowing Him to deal with it, both therapy and God, very much so. Recommend them both together. But I want you to take the time to really allow yourself to heal from that. I really want you to give yourself permission to not allow your past to be a burden, or even your present, to not allow that to be a burden any longer, to not allow that to be the thing that allows you to remain bound because you feel like you can't share a part of your story that is so important and so significant to who you are and why you are the way that you are and how you became who you are. But there's a part of you that is holding on to a space that is very vulnerable, a space that is very hard to share. I'm not saying you got to go and make a whole social media post about it. I'm not saying you got to go and sing it on the mountaintops, but I am asking you to take the time to heal and really allow yourself to heal and process and deal with whatever it is that you need to, so that your story is not a burden, so that your story is not what keeps you bound from walking in the authenticity of who you were created to be. Because listen, your story, your testimony, that helps others. It helps them to see that they're not alone. It helps them to see that just like how you were able to overcome, they can as well. And it's very easy to get into your head and to make you question, should I share this? Or make you feel like this is too much. People aren't going to understand. They're going to judge and da-da-da. Listen, when you are healed from your past, when you are healed from the things that have held you bound, it doesn't matter what people say. People gonna talk regardless. Give them something to talk about. Like, it does not matter what people say. It is something about being healed from the thing that kept you ashamed, the thing that allowed you to be ridden with guilt, the thing that has allowed you to be stuck in a cycle of condemnation. It is something so powerful when you are able to be healed from that thing and you're able to come out on the other side of it and help other people to do the same. And there's a confidence that comes with that. And I love that. I love that so much. And I want that for you. And I want to say I love that for you. All right. So I hope that this was helpful. And like I said, this is not an exclusive list. Y'all know how that go. This is not an exclusive list, but it's a place to get you started. So I hope that this was helpful. Make sure that you share this with a friend, and listen, take the time to start thinking about, what are my purpose blockers? What are the things that are keeping me from walking in the authenticity of who God created me to be and actually pursuing purpose? Because I don't want to miss it this year. That's how I feel for myself, and I want you all to have that same fervor. I don't want to miss it this year. I don't want to miss what you're doing, God. I don't want to miss what you've called me to. I don't want to miss who you've called me to. I want to be intentional about pursuing it. So I just want to encourage you all with that. Have an amazing week, and until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into a Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend. Also, I'd love to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram at @AngelSharon_ and at A Change of Heart podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Angel Sharon. Have an amazing week, and until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.